Hello, sleepers, and welcome to another Dune Awakening rundown. This is Hobo, and I just watched the 2-hour dev live stream, which focused on combat. It was hosted by Natasha, and here's some of the gameplay I'm showing here that they featured. We're going to have, what was his name? Alex was playing the game. He's the lead combat director, and he's going into a Haga Basin Eco Lab here. But the big news is the game is delayed from May 20th to June 10th. The head start's now going to be June 5th if you bought the deluxe or ultimate edition. They are going to have a NDA-free beta weekend sometime in May. They'll announce that date later where you can stream, you can play it, obviously, just play it, or you can make videos. So, a little compensation for the delay, I guess. They showed the old release date trailer with the new dates. There are still no console release dates. So Natasha, the PR person, was with game director Viljar and Alex, the lead combat director. They said their vision is to raise the level of combat in survival crafting games. Range or melee is viable, and often you need a combat of both, and you definitely need to be using your abilities as you get farther into the game. They looked more to action games than other survival crafting games combat. Now, of course, it's not going to be a Souls-like. The combat's not going to be smooth. I think that's their way of kind of touching on a lot of people saying the combat looks janky, the animations aren't smooth, and we'll talk about that more later. Crowd control is important. You have things like gravity grenades. You can use the Bene Gesserit voice to compel enemies to come towards you or stop fighting. There are a lot of good tools to flee, or if you need to make a tactical retreat, or if you get into a situation where you just need to get away, or maybe you're in one of the testing stations, because there are some PvP areas in the Haga Basin, and maybe you just want to be good at fleeing from other players because you're not that into PvP. They said it liking I say it this way, like in Conan, Fear the Mob, one enemy is not too bad, two is manageable, three or more, it starts getting very difficult. There's lots of customizations in builds and playstyles. They mentioned that the Dune lore does support ranged weapons, darts. They use darts in the game, spring-loaded darts, not explosive bullets. There are things called burrow darts, which will go really slowly and they can penetrate your shield. You can dash to avoid that. Once it strikes you, you can dash to react and get away from that. There's an assault-like dart gun, an SMG-like dart gun, which is good to take down shields. There's also a shotgun-like weapon. Some melee is focused on crowds, control versus fighting one enemy. When you shoot, your shields go down while you're shooting, so keep that in mind. Slow blade effective against shields, we know that. Staggers are very important. You can use certain guns to stagger. You can use the quick attacks with your weapons to stagger, and then you use the slow attack to get through the shield and finish your enemy. There are going to be laser guns in the game. If you know about the lore, if a laser gun hits a Holtzman shield, which are the shields you wear, personal shields, it will cause a nuclear explosion. So they've just said it in the game that the Emperor has decreed you can't use laser guns against other people. So they have a governor on them, which if you point it at another player or an NPC, it won't fire. Suspensors are important for movement, for escaping, for combat. They talked about the Swordmaster as one of the schools, has deflection abilities, the knee charge, this Eye of the Storm Whirlwind, which damages everybody around them. They talked about the Bene Gesserit with the voice powers, Bendu Sprint, Compel, and Weirding Move, which lets them get behind you and backstab NPCs and other players. Natasha says she likes to pair Bene Gesserit with the Swordmaster, so that's a lot of fun and effective. Spice consumption. When you consume spice, it's a buff. Basically, you get a lot of special powers. Um, you do more damage. I think you're a little faster. But the big thing is, once you get line of sight on someone for the first time, they will be marked, and you can see them. And even if they go behind obstacles and walls, you can see their health and I think their stamina. So it gives you a lot of information. That wears off. It lasts a good while, watch it in combat, but it does wear off, and then there's a bit of a cooldown, but you can use it again. But each time you're going to need to use a little bit more because you get used to the spice. And then you consume spice as drinks or food, which you can craft, or if you are in a spice blow, you'll have the effect. You're immune to poison when you're under the spice effect. All right, if you're in the sun, you're dehydrated, your stamina is reduced, so you can't do as many attacks and fewer dashes. They talked about the the character they're playing here has light armor, and that's good for dashing and melee combat. You're going to need a battery for your Holtzman, shield, and suspenser, so that's part of your equipment. Battery does drain fast when you use the suspenser. So you have 3 abilities and 3 techniques, and these come from the schools. You start with 2 ability slots, and then you unlock the 3rd ability through the story. You can hide your helmet if you don't like the look of helmets. Just looking through my notes here. The NPCs also use effective melee abilities such as parry and dash. Landing all your darts or quick attacks with a sword will stagger your enemies. NPCs have access to the same abilities as you do. I think they're saying like they have 3 at a time, some mix of them, etc. If you're at gear level, 1 slow blade will kill a regular enemy. It's going to take 2 or 3 on one of the heavy enemies. Parries and blocks are important. The heavies look very tough. They can, like I said, take 2 or 3 slow stabs. Their shields, I think, last longer, and they shoot a minigun at you, which just staggers you constantly and drains your shield quickly. There is water available in dungeons. It doesn't look like there's a lot, but there's some. There's these one-way doors. I think they said they're called blood doors. They're green. You can pass through them, but you can't pass back out until you clear the room of waves, etc. If you use too much spice, you'll start hallucinating. And then, so that was the end. They then talked about group combat, and they said that the Deep Desert Eco Labs, the dungeons, they said if you're hardcore, you can do it solo, but definitely intended for groups. Within dungeons, there's blocked doors. You can cut them down like you do resources. They recommend you have a quarterback or shot caller for groups in the Deep Desert dungeons. This is important. Friendly fire. Darts. If you're in a group, your group mates are protected from your darts. But any area effect, like grenades, etc., that will damage your group mates, but at a lower rate than it damages the NPCs. And this is important. Your guild mates are not automatically protected from your friendly fire. They have to be in a group with you. So you don't get full guild protection from friendly fire. There's a visible indication like a green cloud when you're poisoned. I like that. NPCs use really effective tactics, especially at higher levels. They'll retreat. They'll heal themselves, regroup. They talked about one of the abilities the Mentak gets are turrets. So there are swords for melee and daggers. Swords are for like crowd control and staggering. Daggers are for quick and especially lunges for a slow stab. The game has down but not out, I think, for both players and NPCs. So your teammates can revive you. Or I'm not sure if when you're playing solo, they didn't show that, him getting knocked down while he was solo, but they showed it with some co-op. Oh, and then they did show a little PvP. Looked pretty cool and fun. Messy, like you expect PvP to be. So they then talked about server structure. So you're going to choose a world. Within a world, there are servers called sietches. That's the Haga Basins. Those Haga Basins within that world are all connected to, the player hubs, Harko Village and Arakeen, and the Deep Desert. But it's 40-person limit as far as concurrent players on the server. If the server's full, there's a queue system. And this is important. If you're on a world and you have a friend on a different siege than your Haga Basin, you can actually, through the in-game menu system, you can go to their siege. You'll go to a trade outpost, like you can't warp right into combat or something to limit exploits. But then you're in their world, you can play, you can loot, you can do all sorts of things. You can't build your own base, but you can, if given permission, you can build on their base, on your friend's base. Oh, and your Steam friends list is auto-added to your in-game friends list. So groups are up to 4 people. You can see their statuses, health, stamina, I think, and you get markers on the map, and you get the friendly fire protection. Guilds are maxed at 32 people right now. There is a hierarchy system. You set the leader, the officers. You can set permissions for access to, boxes, equipment, etc., vehicles. It sounded like you can give permissions to non-guild mates, just friends and stuff. Say, hey, I want you to be able to use my sand bike, and you can just set that permissions really easily. And I'm not sure about this, but it sounds like guilds can stretch across sieges on the same world. So you could have a much larger guild if you had, sub guilds on each siege or multiple sieges. So the guild can pledge their allegiance to either the Harkonnen or the Atreides, and I think it's linked to like your wealth, how much spice you've accumulated out in the deep desert. They said you can betray your house once, so switch houses, and then maybe come back one time, but that's it. So if you start Harkonnen, you decide I want to go to Atreides, you could come back to Harkonnen one time, but that's it. There's proximity voice chat, that's off by default. And then where their servers are going to be located, there's going to be servers in West, Central, and East US, South America, Europe, Asia, and Australia. So then they had the Q&A. So yeah, you pick your own world and then your siege. Deep Desert has a lot of PvE if you're not into PvP, exploration, working on the fringes to get loot, avoiding the big guild fights and stuff. While PvP is the main influencer of the Landsrad, the big houses, Atreides and Harkonnen that you can pledge yourself to, and the Landsrad can change rules that affect the game for limited periods of time. Besides PvP influencing that, there is some PvE that can influence the Landsrad. So yeah, quick attacks are to stagger, slow attack is to finish them off, and it's not automatic. You actually have to like hold the button down, I think, to trigger the slow attack. They said there's a question about whether melee weapons durability goes down faster since you have to use ammo. They said that's really negligible between melee and range durability loss because ammo is really not that hard to get. You find it and you can actually craft it on your person. You can swap abilities during combat, but there is a cooldown on swapping them again. While you can get many of the school skills, you can't learn them all. They said you can get very far in a couple, or you can get to the end on one. So the NPCs have pretty advanced AI. They aggro in different ways based on how far away you are, based on who's doing the most damage. based on how many of you are together, so it should make for some interesting tactical fights. There may be the ability to kill Sardaukar, but it's not part of the normal gameplay. They're not in the normal pool of NPCs that you'll come against. There is Hunter Seekers in the game, if you know this from the movies or the books. It's a remote-controlled tiny drone that you can poison people with from a distance. And that was pretty much it. So I asked the question, I think this is really important for lore people who care about it. Can you use shields out in the open sand? Because if you know anything about the Dune world, this is very well established in the books. Holtzman shields, which are your personal shields, they drive the sandworms into a killing frenzy. So they didn't happen to pick my question, so I don't know about that. And they may have addressed it at some other point. I didn't think the combat looked particularly janky. I think the nature of the combat, it's not going to look like super smooth like a action RPG or Souls-like. I mean, I don't think it's any reason for concern. So, all in all, it looked pretty fun. I'm really excited. It's unfortunate that they're pushing the game back, but that's cool. We'll get a beta weekend. So, when that beta weekend happens, I'll be bringing some gameplay content to the channel. So, thanks for watching. If you like this quick rundown, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and have a great day.